Hello and welcome to my channel. We're still in the cardiovascular system, but today we will start talking about lymphatics, the lymphatic system, which is part of the cardiovascular system. So let's begin. The lymphatic system, as you can see in this drawing, it covers all the body in extensive anastomosis or extensive network interrupted by stops at lymphatic organs or lymphoid organs like such as lymph nodes or spleen or thymus or tonsils. It's made up of large network of lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes, lymphatic or lymphoid organs, and lymphoid tissues. It carries clear fluid called the lymph towards the heart, means towards the systemic circulation. It's an open system, not a closed system like the cardiovascular system. By me by we mean by open system that it acts on the leaked fluids outside the cardiovascular system in the interstitial fluid. There's about 20 liters of blood per day through filtered through capillary filtration. 17 liters of these pass through the systemic circulation back to blood vessels, reabsorbed directly into the blood vessels. The remaining fluid, which is around 3 liters, is picked up by the lymphatic system, and this is the main function of the lymphatic system. Lymphatic vessels, they are thin-walled and larger than the cardiovascular system, by the way, blood vessels of the cardiovascular system, and it carries lymph. The vessel is lined by endothelial cells, as you can see here. It's the same structure as the cardiovascular system, with a layer of intima and media made up of smooth muscle and adventitia made up of connective tissue. The lymph vessels are devoted to the propulsion of the lymph from the lymph capillaries, which are mainly concerned with absorption of interstitial fluid from the tissues. As mentioned before, the lymph capillaries are larger, slightly larger than the capillaries of the cardiovascular system. Lymph vessels that carry lymph to the lymph node, called the afferent lymph vessels. These are the afferent lymph vessels present at the periphery of a lymph node. Vessels that carry lymph from the lymph node means called the efferent lymphatic vessel. The difference between the two is that afferent lymphatic vessels present only in lymph nodes, while efferent lymphatic vessels present in lymph nodes and other organs such as the spleen and the thymus. The lymph, after exiting the lymph node, may travel to another lymph node, or maybe return to a vein, or may travel to a larger lymph duct. Then the lymph ducts drain the lymph into one of the subclavian veins, as you can see here, by the right lymphatic duct and the left lymphatic duct, which is the main duct, the thoracic duct. The right lymphatic duct, by the way, drains the upper part of the body, the right part of the body, upper part of the body, while the left lymphatic duct, thoracic, drains the rest of the body. By draining it into the subclavian veins, it returns it to the general circulation. And like the veins, the lymphatic vessels contain valves. See here, this is the capillary bed between the arteriolar side and the venular side. On the outside, in the interstitial fluid, there is a close Blind-ended capillaries called the lymphatics. They collect the excess tissue fluid filtered from the capillary bed. And don't forget also that lymphatics play a major role in the lipid metabolism, like what you'll study in biochemistry. In the intestinal villi, there are lymphatics that picks up the product of breaking down of lipids called the chylomicrons, taking it to the absorbs it as the major route for absorption of lipids. So if you cut the thoracic duct, for example, after a fatty meal, you will find a milky liquid because of the absorption of the chylomicrons. There was a question before, what if you cut the thoracic duct after a fatty meal? Well, the answer is a milky fluid plus which type of lymphocytes? It's T lymphocytes, because T lymphocytes wander all over the body and B lymphocytes reside in the lymph nodes. The structure of the lymphatic system, it's the same like the cardiovascular system. Inner lining of endothelium called the tunica intima, and the layer functions to mechanically transport fluid, and since the basement membrane on which it rests is discontinuous, it leaks easily. The next layer of smooth muscles arranged in circular manner or circular fashion around the endothelium by contracting or relaxing alter the diameter or caliber of the lumen of the lymphatic vessel. The outermost layer is the adventitia, consists of fibrous tissue, and the general structure is seen only in larger lymphatics. Smaller lymphatics have fewer layers. They lose their outer layers and become only endothelial cells. Lymph capillaries, they begin with blind ending, as seen in the picture before. Remember that, blind ending of the lymphatics. Highly permeable superficial lymph capillaries. They are formed by endothelial cells with button-like junctions between them that allow fluid to pass through them when the interstitial pressure is sufficiently high. Means the amount of filtration is high from the cardiovascular system. There is also a valve system that prevents the absorbed lymph from leaking back into the interstitial fluid. The valve system involves collagen fibers attached to the endothelial cells that respond to increased interstitial fluid pressure by separating the endothelial cells and allowing the flow of lymph into the capillary for the circulation. Another system of semilunar valves between the lymphangions, like we'll see later. It prevents backflow of lymph along the length of lymphatic vessel. Lymph capillaries have many anastomoses between them, interconnections that form a network around the body. Now, rhythmic contraction of the vessel walls through movements may also help draw fluid into the smallest lymphatic vessels, capillaries. It means capillaries. If this didn't happen, the fluid builds up in the interstitial fluid, and this is called edema. As the circular path through the body's system continues, the fluid is transported to the right and left lymphatic ducts. The right lymphatic duct drains into the right subclavian. The left lymphatic duct, which is the thoracic duct, drains into the left subclavian vein. The system also has white blood cells in lymph nodes to protect the body from being infected by cancer cells or fungi or viruses or bacteria. This is known as secondary circulatory system. Now, the lymphatic vessels. Lymph capillaries, they drain into larger collecting lymphatics. They are contractile, transports lymph using a combination of smooth muscles in the tunica media, and it contracts to assist in transporting lymph. And the valves, the semilunar valves, prevent the backflow of lymph in the lymphatic vessel. You can see here that the lymphatic is made up of segments called lymphangions. Between the lymphangions are semilunar valves, and this is to prevent the backflow of lymph in the lymphatic vessel. Function of lymphatic system or lymphatic vessels: they act as reservoirs for plasma and other substances, including cells that have leaked from the vascular system, to be returned back to the systemic circulation. Without this function, lymph cannot be effectively drained and lymphedema develops. Afferent vessels, as you can see here, the afferent lymphatic vessels are all parts of the periphery of the lymph node, and after branches forming a dense plexus in the capsule, in the substance of the capsule of the lymph node, they open into lymphatic sinuses, as you can see here, or lymph sinuses. It carries unfiltered lymph into the node. In doing so, it loses their coats, means loses the adventitia and media, and become only endothelial lining for the easy filtration of the lymph into the lymph node. Afferent lymphatic vessels are only found in lymph nodes, while the efferent lymphatic vessels, which is this one at the hilum of the lymph node, is not only in lymph nodes but also in the thymus and the spleen. Efferent vessels. The efferent lymphatic vessel commences from the lymph sinuses of the medullary portion of the lymph nodes, and it leaves the lymph nodes at the hilum of the lymph node. It carries filtered lymph outside the node, either to another node or to the circulation. Efferent lymphatic vessels are also found in association with thymus and spleen, in contrast with the afferent vessels like mentioned before. The other main function of the lymphatic system is the immune defense, immune response. Like said before, lymph is very similar to blood plasma in that it contains waste products and cellular debris, together with bacteria and proteins. The cells of the lymph are mostly lymphocytes, mostly of the T lymphocytes type, but the B lymphocytes reside in the lymph nodes. Associated lymphoid organs are composed of lymphoid tissue and are the sites for either production of lymphocytes or activation of lymphocytes. Like the thymus, for example, it activates T cells. These include the lymph nodes with the highest concentration of lymphocytes, spleen and thymus, the tonsils. These are the tonsils. This is the spleen in the left hypochondriac region, and this is the thymus in the mediastinum, in the anterior mediastinum. But lymphocytes originally they generated from the bone marrow, And the lymphoid organs contain other types of cells as stromal cells for support also. Lymphoid tissue is also associated with mucosa, such as mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue, which is called the MALT. Now, vessels carry the lymph throughout the body, passes through numerous lymph nodes and filter out unwanted materials such as bacteria and damaged cells. Lymph then passes into larger lymph vessels known as lymph ducts. The right lymphatic duct drains the right side of the region of the body, and the much larger left lymphatic duct, which is known as thoracic duct, drains the rest of the body. It drains the left side of the body, not only the left side, actually part of the right side also of the body. Below the axilla, the right duct drains the right upper limb and the axilla, but the thoracic duct drains the rest of the body. Then the ducts empty into the subclavian veins to return the blood, to return the lymph to the systemic circulation. Then lymph is moved through the system by muscle contractions. I hope you got the maximum benefit from this lecture, and thank you very much for watching.